Breaking news coming in now. President Trump has also said that the rare earth issue has been settled and that there will be no more roadblocks on rare earth exports from China. He added that President Xi has agreed to work hard to stop fentanyl shipments. And I have Ambassador Gauri Shankar back with me. Ambassador Shankar, what would you like to see on this particular news that we're sharing? All right, Shruti, we were just talking about fentanyl now. What would you like to, what are your thoughts on this breaking news coming in?
As in the fentanyl news, then China does not directly export fentanyl across the world, but it exports the precursor chemicals. It controls two of the major markets in the South Asia, that is the Golden Triangle and the Golden Crescent. So in the Golden Triangle, it's towards the east of India, where through Myanmar, a lot of that market goes through. The precursor chemicals get sent via Myanmar to the rest of the world, and it passes right across to the west of India, to the Golden Triangle, where Pakistan, Afghanistan, these areas are there, and from there it goes towards Europe. From the Golden Triangle, it goes towards the US coastline across the Pacific Ocean. So this is how the precursor chemicals are sent. They're not detectable, and they're a giant problem because they can be assembled in local labs by the drug mafia and sold out in the US consumer market. So US has a large amount of problem regarding that, and they are unable to kind of deal with it without actually having partner nations in their fight against drugs. But having China commit that they will not sell those precursor chemicals only means that there will be no state sanctioned selling of those chemicals. The gray market is still open for all of these kind of things. Chemicals as abusive as drugs, fentanyl and heroin and cocaine, they are never ever sold much by the nod of the government. The gray market zone, the dark market, that is where all this business happens. And I doubt if the government had any control of it, such markets would exist. So by just stating that it will not sell those kind of chemicals and getting 10% down is just words. The actual impact on USA will continue unless it's able to seal its own borders, deal with the mafia inside its own land, rather than bombing ships, right, both I believe now on the Pacific as well as the Caribbean. And the fentanyl problem, though very deadly, is not something that can be handled by just talking to other nations. He needs to address the problem at home.
All right, Shruti, stay on with me. Sorry. And now moving on to some more breaking news coming in. Now, following his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, US President Donald Trump has stated that both the leaders discussed semiconductor chips in the meeting, and both the leaders discussed about talking to NVIDIA and others about taking semiconductor chips. I have my colleague Brian Thomas joining me with more details. Brian, that's a big development there. What more can you tell us? All right, so we'll try and reconnect with Brian, but Shruti, now we're discussing a very important point, which is semiconductor chips. What would you like to say on that?
Well, the largest market, the largest provider to China was NVIDIA from US, and that had faced sanctions, that had faced directives from USA that it will not be allowed to export to China right after the rare earth tap was turned off for USA by China itself, in regards to all these sanctions and the tariff trades and all of the other business that has been happening under Trump 2.0. So they tried to use that, and NVIDIA CEO came out and said very openly that by asking us to shut it down, you have deprived us of our largest consumers. And if you're asking us to take a large amount of loss by something like this, and if this continues, they will have to start laying off people, they will have to start cutting off jobs, because how much of a loss can a company absorb? And as a result, this trip was, I believe your earlier panelist, Dr. Kohli, said very correctly, only 25% success, because they managed to get a little bit of supposed agreements on rare earths. We don't know, because this particular statement had happened earlier as well, that when China had started the licensing part for rare earth, there was a conversation between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump via telephone, and then he had come out with a similar statement saying, oh, our rare earth problems are solved, and China is going to sell us rare earths, and nobody's going to face any problems. But then they did face problems, because apart from that particular statement, they did not actually act in good faith in the global markets. And now again, they have tightened the belt with NVIDIA and the other bits, and China again closed the tap. So when he says that rare earths are not
All
going
right,
to be a
Shruti, I'll
problem,
just
it
have
is
to
going to be an
interrupt
issue.
you because I have Ambassador Suresh Goyal joining me. Now, Ambassador Goyal, we're of course talking about the meeting with President Xi Jinping that Donald Trump has had. And he has stated that both the leaders have discussed semiconductors. Your comment?
Yes, they must have discussed semiconductors, and I'm sure that the two most important points of discussion between the two must have been a trade deal and the semiconductors, besides others. But both are very difficult issues, and my own sense is that till Xi Jinping gets a kind of a trade deal to his satisfaction, he's not going to give his hand away on the semiconductors. After all, today, China controls the semiconductor market. They have the monopoly, and it's the lowest cost production. Therefore, I really don't see, till we know about the trade deal, what kind of a concession, what kind of a deal will China make on the semiconductors. I think we need to wait. We need to wait at least till the end of the day to know where these conversations are going to go. Yes.
All right, Ambassador Goyal.